Throughout this pandemic, the federal government has seemed extremely reluctant to provide aid directly to individuals, really only doing so in two ways. In March, Congress approved $1,200 stimulus payments for individuals that have been since sent to as many as 159 million U.S. households. The size of the benefit diminished or disappeared entirely for those who earned more than $75,000 back in 2019. So that was the main way that, roughly half of Americans got some aid, assuming they hadn't made more money. Many of you watching this might not have gotten anything. So they did that, even though before that bill was passed, and certainly since then, many people have noted that $1,200 is nice. It's better than not $1,200. But when you've lost your jobs, as 40 million plus did at least at one point, that is not going to rescue you. If you have car payments and medical bills and rent and all of that, it's very small. And for that to be a one-time thing was sort of insulting. Now, there was also enhanced unemployment benefits, which are still continuing and will expire in less than 3 weeks. And that's basically what we've had to this point for individuals. For companies, there was literally trillions of dollars, hypothetically, that hasn't all been doled out, but hypothetically at some point will be. So that's what we've got up until now. We do have some details on what's coming next. Brett, I'm curious, what are your expectations in general?
My earnest expectations are like, here is a lump sum that is less than you would get if they continued the unemployment benefits, and Trump's going to fight to get his name on it. Mm-hmm. Right now, he's like arguing. I mean, I've seen various accounts because it's all just rumor mills at this point, but essentially saying like, I want a bigger lump sum than anyone's asking for, but he might do that. And for the next 6 months, you'll get you'll get a single check that's less than even a reduced ongoing employment benefit. Yeah. Unemployment benefit.
I'm curious because I'm seeing in the chat people from some other countries saying what they get. So I'm curious for international viewers, if you could write a message that says what country you're in, what you get, and if it was a one-time or a monthly recurring payment. I am curious how other countries compare.
And you don't have to say free healthcare. We know you already have that.
We know almost all of you already have that. And so let's talk about what we might be getting in the future. As Congress begins to take up the next stimulus package, and there's no rush really, it's only been like 4 months, congressional Republicans and White House officials are weighing proposals to drop that number below $75,000. So the sort of cutoff point where whatever you get would start to go away or entirely be gone will be a lower threshold. And where might they draw that? We don't know for sure, but at 2 events this week, Mitch McConnell said the payments should be sent out primarily to help those earning under $40,000. So that's cutting the threshold in half. Now, aides wouldn't confirm if that's what he's actually advocating for in the legislation, but that's what he's been saying.
Yeah, and do you have something, there's an argument over whether, like $40,000 if you live in a rural area is high compared to, relatively Certainly. A more real income than if you make $40,000 in an urban area. The question is, are they going to adjust it based on geography? And the answer to that is absolutely not. They don't care about you. They want the Republicans want to further blame people in cities for everything so that they can try this really pathetic attempt to say, I mean, it's such a terrible line of argument. It's like, well, the Democrats aren't doing anything for you. Look at how it is, even though they're contributing to why your life sucks. But they also are not they're saying it's an identity politics thing to say you should vote Democrat without offering any real, actual, substantive policy solutions for you. Yeah. And that doesn't, guys, you're also playing identity politics, just like this weird, like negative argument for identity politics, which is essentially the same thing. It's a mirror image. What's frustrating for me is just the way that these things are, like, I would say that if they're going to say, we'll give you a lump sum, but it won't be the ongoing thing. But the number in the lump sum is bigger than your ongoing payments would be as each installment goes. Like, that is so scary to me because of how they've attempted to cover so much of this. Like the way that when we first saw the infection rates spike again as like a second aspect of the first wave, or a second wave, depending on how you want to call it. When we saw that happen, their counter argument was, well, the death rate hasn't gone up. Mm-hmm. Like, You think the death rate would go up immediately when infections go up? Don't people get sick and then die?
Yeah. Well,
And then
first
lo
cases,
and behold, a
then
week later, the freaking death rate goes up.
Yeah.
So yes,
the last couple days have been rough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first cases, then hospitalizations, then deaths. That's what was predicted. People kept trying to pretend it wasn't going to happen, and it does appear to be happening now.
But the point behind that is they think that's enough to say, well, the death rate isn't going up. And then they get everyone else for a week to say, well, the death rate isn't going up. So they always give you something to say, but they're so stupid. They don't give you something to say for the long run. And they just give you something that is going to be proven wrong by a fact in a week.
Yeah. Now, in terms of what else we can expect, understand that we've previously covered that there's not much appetite for more stimulus on the right. Like I love headlines like that. It's about an appetite. They're just not hungry. It's not an obligation they have to their constituents to make sure that they're not ruined by this pandemic. It's an appetite thing. Numerous conservatives in both Congress and the White House have expressed concern that they've already spent too much taxpayer money fighting the virus. You mean on the military? Lawmakers so far have already thrown more than $3 trillion at it. They apparently want to limit any additional spending to 1/3 of that.
Well, then come up with a way to spend it that works. That's the problem. And also fix all your non-monetary actions that are working against your monetary actions.
No, exactly. That's the thing. I want the economy back. So I'm going to say businesses should open. I'm going to pretend to everyone that they should shop there. We're not going to give them money, and many of them have lost jobs, but somehow that equation is going to balance out and produce economic growth, not just dead consumers.
And the problem is it's still, when you ask folks who's better with the economy, they always just assume Republicans. Just because the Republicans are rich, but that doesn't mean they're good with the economy. It just means they got rich and stopped wanting to help people.
Yeah.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.